King Midas absolutely adored flowers. He had the most beautiful garden in the entire country. One morning, however, his gardeners discovered a man sleeping in a ruined flower bed. They hastily tied him up and took him to see the king. Midas peered at the stranger and afterwards issued an order. "Untie him at once." He had recognized old Silenus, friend and companion of Dionysus, the god of wine and merrymaking. "Poor Silenus," he said to him, "what happened to you?" Last night we had a feast with the gods on Mount Olympus. I must have lost my way and somehow found myself in your garden." Midas loved festivities. This is why he decided to offer his hospitality to Dionysus's companion. "Welcome," he said to Silenus. "You can stay in my palace as long as you like." A few days later, Silenus decided to return to Mount Olympus, so King Midas escorted him back along with his guards. At some point in their journey, they came across the god Dionysus. "My friend, where have you been all these days?" "At King Midas's palace. His hospitality was superb." "I must repay you for your kindness somehow," the god said to the king. "Tell me, what is that you desire?" Midas may have been an excellent host, but he was also quite greedy. "I wish that everything I touched returned into gold." "Gold? Everything you touch? Ha, ha. Done!" exclaimed Dionysus. He burst into laughter, and then he and his entourage disappeared. When Midas was left alone with his guards, his heart started pounding. Could he really turn into gold anything he touched? If so, why did Dionysus burst into laughter? Wondered Midas, puzzling over the god's behavior. Nevertheless, he decided to give it a try. He bent over a flower and stretched his arm tentatively. No sooner had he touched it that the flower turned into gold. Midas could not believe his eyes. He started jumping up and down and screaming excitedly. He touched everything on his path: the flowers, the cobs, the pine cones. Everything turned into gold. The king was cavorting happily at every touch. "I am rich. I am the richest and happiest man in the world." After a while, he turned to go home and touched everything along the way. His guards were obliged to carry all that gold. Upon arrival at the palace, Midas touched the doors that immediately turned into gold. "No entrance is more beautiful than this one," he declared proudly. All this excitement made the king feel hungry, so he told his servants to prepare him a rich meal and went to sit on his comfortable throne. But all of a sudden, the soft pillows became as hard as stone. More precisely, they became as hard as gold. "It's a bit uncomfortable," remarked Midas, "but I don't care, since now I'm even richer." A servant approached the king and offered him a glass of wine. Midas took the glass, but before he could even bring it to his lips, it transformed into a piece of gold. The king started getting slightly nervous. Then they brought him a fruit plate. Famished as he was, he grabbed an apple, but it too turned into gold. This time, the king was really getting scared. He thought that perhaps he shouldn't be touching the food with his hands. So he bent over the fruit plate and tried to bite a few grapes. It was pointless, as they too turned instantly into gold. He tried repeatedly, but the same thing happened again and again. Midas could neither eat nor drink, unlike even his poorest subjects. I will die from hunger and thirst," he exclaimed. Terrified, he grabbed a servant by the hand. The poor man promptly transformed into a gold statue. The king finally realized the awful curse that he had brought on himself because he was so greedy. From now on, everything he touched would turn into gold. He was now the richest and unhappiest person on earth. Every time he tried to approach people, they flinched and got away from him. However, the saddest part of this curse was that he couldn't even hug his own children. The king was filled with despair, disappointment, and loneliness. Midas ran away from the palace. He was hungry, thirsty, and distressed. At the thought of all the gold he had acquired, he was filled with immense sadness. "What I have done, what I have done," he kept saying to himself inconsolably. The only thing he wanted for now was to find god Dionysus, talk to him, and ask him to take away the awful curse he had brought on himself. When he stood in front of Dionysus, he lowered his head in shame. "I spoke in a thoughtless and irresponsible manner," he whispered. "Please release me from this force. My subject and my family see me as a horrible monster. You learned your lesson and realized that you should think before you speak." Dionysus admonished him, but decided to help him. The god explained what he should do, and the king, without wasting any time, rushed to the source of the river Poctolus. "All the gold that is in your body will flow into the river," Dionysus had told him. Midas dived in the fast-flowing water and cleansed himself from head to toe. As soon as he climbed out of the water and on the shore, he stretched his trembling hand to touch a leaf. Nothing. Then he touched a flower. Still nothing. "I'm cured! I'm healed!" he cried with relief, while tears of joy streamed down his face. He went back to the palace and looked for his children. He could finally take them in his arms without any fear at all. Then he gave them the most valuable piece of advice, something he had learned the hard way. Gold doesn't buy happiness. From that moment on, nuggets of gold can be found in the water of River Pactolus, and people had better leave them exactly where they are